Join our incredible moms who have mastered the art of balancing motherhood in today's episode of We Time Convo.
My name is Debbie.
This is Liza.
Moms sharing inspiring stories, practical tips, and a few hilarious anecdotes. And it all begins now.
Thank you for listening to We Time Convo. Unfortunately, Debbie was unable to make it. She is off in Reno, living her best life, always traveling. But I actually have a guest co-host with me today, and you will probably remember her from our Dating in Your 40s episode, Dawn Marie.
Yay!
Hey, say hi, Dawn Marie.
Hi, Dawn
And then our special guest is Marita.
Yay!
Hello. Yeah, so she's actually also a mom. She's also an educator, and we pretty much all work together. Yep. But I was just telling Irene, I said, my coworkers are actually like my biggest supporters because I'm very quiet about my podcast. I'm really like humble about it. I don't really talk about it. But like Dawn Marie's like, hey, have you listened to, Liza's podcast? You should get on the podcast. So she loves to recruit. So she's a great host. And Marita, she's actually one of our, she's listened to all our episodes and
big fan.
Yes. Yeah. First time caller, long time listener.
Yeah. And, we recently had our work party in the fall, and I didn't realize how many of my coworkers actually listen to the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so they're like, oh my gosh, like I really love the breastfeeding episode. I breastfed years ago, but
I can guess who that was.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, so Marita here is here with us to talk about her
phenomenal experiences in life and everything that she does.
Yeah. And being, and kind of semi-astronaut woman.
We like to say she's an astronaut.
So for the short bit of it, so Marita's actually was part of a NASA mission to explore the universe, SOFIA, which is an airborne observatory where she was one of 6 teachers in the nation to fly its first year. She has since been on about 4 missions total.
Yes.
Because you went to the stratosphere?
Yes, stratosphere. Yeah. So I'm not an astronaut. I am a stratonaut. And
that's even better.
The science teacher in me always comes out. So astronauts actually leave Earth's atmosphere. Some of them are in what's called the upper ionosphere, which is one of the top layers. And then, but we flew in the stratosphere. So most airplanes fly about 30 to 37,000 feet. That's what most commercial airlines fly. SOFIA is the 3rd generation of infrared astronomy telescopes. There was a Learjet that flew a small, I'm going to get it wrong, but 6-inch telescope. Okay. And then the next one after that was called the KAO, Kuiper Airborne Observatory. And I believe that was a cargo plane kind of thing where they had a telescope in that. And that's when I first got to NASA. I worked at NASA before I was teaching. And then SOFIA was the next generation of that, where they had it's 3 meters for those of us in America. It's 100 inches telescope that they mounted on the back of a 747 SP, which stands for Special Performance. That means the plane can reach altitudes a lot faster than some of the other planes. And so it was a 100-inch telescope that astronomers fly in the stratosphere to get above the water vapor so that they can collect infrared light from the other parts of our galaxy, from outside of our galaxy, because not all the light that is emitted by objects in the universe reaches our ground-based observatories, which are like here in San Jose. If you're familiar with San Jose, up on top Mount Hamilton is the Lake Observatory. And so they can't collect all the infrared light. And you might say, why do we care about infrared light? Infrared light is the heat released from we all emit infrared light. So it's heat, basically. And firefighters use infrared cameras to see, where hot spots are in a fire. And so astronomers use infrared light to detect how stars are formed or where stars are forming. So
that's really cool. That's what I was going to ask. Like, was it just strictly for stars, or is it for planets, or is it for other objects that we're trying to view and stuff?
Yeah, there's a whole host of different science experiments that the astronomers were doing on SOFIA. And so my role as they would call us airborne astronomers was basically, I akin it to a ride along. Like if you were to ride along with SJPD, what you could see what their job is and see all
but like nerdy.
But nerdy. A little nerdier.
Yeah.
But do they let you touch the instruments? Do they let you see the data that's being collected and then analyze that or have input about that? Because the amount of training to go into being an astronaut is quite extensive in years, but to have other people who are obviously civilians and so geared and excited about this information. You have a different point of view too, because you have no political, you have no bind to NASA. I'm assuming like there wasn't.
Well, no, technically I did work at Ames, but NASA Ames Research Center before. Okay. So it's all like for me, you know, when you're young, when you're in I would teach high schoolers. And so, you know, I love hearing my students, their dreams and stuff. And like, I remember when I thought that like you did, you know, like here's what you think your life plan is.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you get sidetracked a little bit. But for me, this opportunity to be part of the SOFIA program was like coming full circle. Like that's one of the things I thought I wanted to do when I grew up.
Oh yeah.
So I've always wanted to be a teacher. I've always wanted to do something in science. And I always thought it'd be cool to work for NASA. So I've done, all three of those things. So not that I'm done with things that I want to do.
No, but you get to explore quite a bit and like get to inspire. And like you said, teaching, Marita's also shared her want for teaching, and maybe you want to share a little bit about your teaching story and how you fell into that our profession, because it's inspiring to have somebody who's been in the industry, loves, and that flexibility of our job to let you go do these things too and explore. Because like, look, phenomenal woman, scientist, teacher, like working for NASA, mom, like
you're flattering me.
Well, no, but it's true that you're not thinking you're pigeonholed into one thing. Like you just didn't like, I just got to work at NASA and don't get to do my other passions. You're exploring all your passions. That's really advantageous.
You're doing it.
Yeah. Well, not too long of a story because we don't have a lot of time, but I've always wanted to be a teacher. Yes. I have a degree in physics from Cal Poly SLO. And what was really apparent to me is in my time at Cal Poly and the physics department, because I have a degree in physics, is I was one of 4 women my entire time there. And anytime I hear people go, oh, physics, that must be hard. I go, it is hard, but I really want to, I enjoy solving puzzles. And that's to me what physics is. And so it was frustrating to me that I was only one of 4 women, and like, why aren't more women pursuing careers in STEM and science? So so that was my dream, was to like, work in industry for a little bit and then become a teacher so that I can hopefully inspire other young women and other minority students to pursue a career in a STEM career.
Yeah.
So
no, and you're doing it right now, which is great.
But to answer your question before about whether, did they let us touch stuff? So
I'm like, what toys can we touch?
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what she said. NASA touch stuff.
Yes. They did let us touch. There's an educator console. And so we got to see, so it's like, this is what you guys can touch. There was a suite, not a suite, but a little counter area, about 3 monitors where we could watch what different people were doing, what the telescope operator is doing, because there's someone in charge of making sure the telescope is pointing where it's supposed to be pointing at, what the actual researchers, the principal investigators is the fancy name for the guy in charge of the research.
Okay.
And what the principal investigators are looking at. And then also just where the plane is with respect to where we are around the globe. I flew, as Liza said earlier, on about 4 different missions. I was hoping that they would say, hey, we really need a teacher to go to our deployment to New Zealand. Yeah. But that didn't happen. But we got to move about the cabin. We got to get pretty close to where the actual instruments are attached to. So the telescope is on the other side of what's called a pressure bulkhead. And that part is open up to the atmosphere. So that's part we wouldn't be able to be in when the plane was in flight. So it literally opens up to the atmosphere. And then on the other side of the bulkhead, that's where astronomers attach their instruments. And their instruments are there so that whatever light bounces through, it gets collected by the telescope and bounces around will get to their instruments. So we got to get that far. And then it's like, nobody can really get that far when they're up in the air because it's dangerous.
Okay.
And then I could talk to the scientists, talk to the people that are working there. They even have like a safety officer. They have pilots. There's, it's like a whole crew of people. It's not just one astronomer and the pilot. There's a
dumb question here. I'm raising my hand in front of teachers. So how is like the gravity? Like, do you still have gravity? Like if you pee, will it rise up?
No, we're not that far. Okay. We haven't escaped that much of Earth's gravity.
So you can still breathe. Like
you can still breathe. Yeah. It's the SOFIA could fly anywhere from about 42, but upwards about 45,000 feet. So it is the lowest part of the stratosphere, which is the next layer up. The layer that we live in is called the troposphere. And so that's where most humans reside, and even planes fly about, if you're on the space station, you don't reside.
There's like, how much percentage of the world would that be? Like
everybody,
6
sorry.
people,
It sounds, I don't know why I said it that way.
Most people. I know, I love it.
You can edit that out, right?
I was like, does Marita know there's a colony up there and we don't know about it? Did you get to see them?
No, I mean, all of us live in the troposphere and the stratosphere is just the next layer. So it changes though, depending on like weather conditions, right? So like where the troposphere is. At the end of the troposphere and the stratosphere are. So there's a scientist in charge of telling the pilots where they need to fly so that they're above all the water vapor. And we had to sit in like these pre-flight briefings, like you see in those movies where it says like, before the flight, there's all this planning, and before any mission, there is all this planning. And so one of the things they had to talk about was, this is how high we're going to fly. And then this is where this is our pathway. So once you get to certain parts of the country, because we mostly flew over North America, this is where you might need to increase altitude or decrease altitude. I want to say the really cool thing about SOFIA, though, was that the telescope always stayed pointing at the object that they were looking at.
Okay.
And you know how like things jostle around and bounce around, but it was the plane that was the one that was doing all the moving. So it's like this incredible feat of engineering. So if you can imagine a raw egg, and like you can spin the raw egg and wobble it rolls all around, but the yolk is always going to stay in the same spot no matter how the egg rolls, unless you like literally throw it down. But that's because the telescope was basically being the center of mass of the plane, which is where that's why
Thanks for dumbing it down for me.
No.
I love like you need to talk to me, like you need to explain it to me like I'm your student.
So with the infrared information that you were getting, what were you guys, did you have a mission of what you were hoping to extract from that information and what you wanted to do with it? Or is it just information gathering?
There was about 3 or 4, sometimes usually 3 or 4 different experiments running on there. Like different astronomers were given time to use SOFIA to collect their data. So like all the missions are sort of mushing together, but some astronomers were interested in collecting infrared light from the center of our galaxy because they're interested in knowing what the structure of the center of our galaxy is. And there was a recent article in the last couple of years where that scientists have theorized and have evidence to support it that at the center of every galaxy is this supermassive black hole. There are black holes sort of sprinkled around, but the driving force behind the structure of like our galaxy, the Milky Way, which looks a lot like Andromeda galaxy. So if you think about like a whirlpool or a pinwheel,
that's what Liza and I talk about daily, all the time. Whirlpools.
Yeah.
No, this is great because do they think that black hole, why would we want to know about the black hole?
Scientists are studying the universe, to be honest, because it's more about understanding our place in the universe and where we came from and where we're going.
It's like therapy.
Yes, cosmic therapy.
Who are we? No, it is in a way. Like, what's our purpose? How are we?
Some people may think that, it's not worth our time, but I think the more you know about yourself, right? Whether it's your own individual personal self or as us as humanity, because as far as we know, we are the only place in the universe so far that has intelligent life. Now there's evidence of other places in the universe that have the ability to support life and even what
we think is life too, right? Is that something?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so those are called astrobiologists. They're looking for evidence of life elsewhere in the universe. And that's why when the Mars rovers landed and found evidence of they called them the blueberries, if you remember, right? They're super excited about all these signs that, there was liquid water on Mars at some time in its geologic past. That might mean that there was microbial life on Mars in its past.
Okay.
Now, unlike, some of the other shows that we've seen, there's probably not some hidden civilization underneath the crust of Mars. But I mean, it means that there's other possible. I think the big reason why we continue to do this is that we're lonely, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
We're lonely. We're like, are we really the only ones? And
we're a huge world, but there's so much.
Right. There's over almost 8 billion of us, and yet we're still lonely. We want to find out, are there other places in the universe where we can find ourselves?
That's so funny.
It's like dating.
It is. And I think I just read an article. Dr. Ruth is, we can edit this out. This might be too weird. She is the ambassador of loneliness for New York State now. Like she's going to help because that's another thing with dementia and Alzheimer's and people aging is we're now in a generation of increased loneliness. So that makes sense then. People are looking, we might say they're chasing for aliens and such, but they are trying to have a connection. That's a really good point, that the loneliness is full circle, not full circle, but a bigger concept of we still, even though there's 8 billion people, some people even in the room don't feel connected and they're searching out in the galaxy. Right. That might make more sense. That makes more sense to me.
Well, you know, ironically, when I worked at NASA Ames Research Center, I was a contractor, and the company that I worked for was actually called the SETI Institute, which stands for Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And their tagline is, "Are we alone?"
Mm-hmm.
So
it's kind of scary, but then it's kind of sad, but sweet at the same time, I guess.
I think we're going to look at it as a sweet. I mean, I hope so.
I find it hard to believe. And there's a scientist, Dr. Frank Drake, who is no longer with us, but he was the founder of the SETI Institute, and he came up with a mathematical equation that calculates the statistical probability about there existing life elsewhere in the universe. And the answer to that question is it's not zero.
Oh.
So I believe that. I feel that there is definitely life out there. We just haven't found it yet, and we may never find it.
Yeah.
Because it's so vast. I teach my students about the size of the universe and how old the universe is. You know, it's like the visible universe, which is what we can detect with our instruments, is about it's probably outdated, so scientists don't call in and say she was totally wrong, but it's at least 96 billion light years across or more. Our own galaxy is just 100,000 light years across. What does that mean? That means light from the opposite side of our galaxy takes 100,000 years to reach us. So when astronomers are studying infrared light or visible light, you know, the Hubble Space Telescope or the James Webb Telescope that are space telescopes, they're looking into the past. So we're looking into the past when we collect that light.
And then with the light, besides looking at the past, are we trying to learn from that? Are we trying to get medical information maybe sometimes too? Or is it just, are the scientists at NASA like, hey, I'm just happy if I found something that does something, like, I don't care on what platform?
I think all of those. Okay. I think that there are scientists who are purely for looking at the structure and how the universe came to be, what the future of the universe is. But then what NASA learns in their missions has been transformed into the technology that we use in our daily lives.
Mm. Now, would you want to go back to NASA and work full time?
No, I actually love my job. I love teaching. I don't like the politics and the red tape we have to deal with, but being in the classroom with my kids, explaining to them, you know, how the universe works and seeing them like the lights go off in their eyes and they're like, or the kid that asked that question that you're like, oh, they're listening to me. Right. That's where I get fulfillment. I did enjoy my time working at NASA. I don't have a PhD, so what I could do was limited. And I feel like I'm doing what I was supposed to be doing. I believe we're all put on this earth to do something specific. And I feel like teaching is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And I'd like to say, I hardly ever leave the office, but when I do, I'm always walking by Marita's classroom, and she is always lively and just teaching, and the students are always engaged because, you know, I kind of peek in there to see what she's doing. But yeah, she's so great at what she does, and you can tell that she's a really, really good teacher.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Liza's spying. Now I know.
Yeah. So back to the SOFIA thing.
Yep.
So there's 6 teachers total that get to do this.
The first year there was 6 teachers total. Okay. So it's the 2011 is probably, I was teaching at a different school in our district. And so that was the first flight. It was really just a way to they were trying to make sure Congress still supported their efforts. And so there was an education public outreach effort so that they were going to have educators fly on SOFIA. And everyone says I had an in. I didn't have an in. I just knew about it because when I worked at NASA, I'm a planner.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, well, when I'm done with this NASA thing and I'm doing my teaching thing, I'm going to apply to be a person on SOFIA, a teacher on SOFIA. So that's the only in I had. I still had to apply. But yeah, so I was one of the 6 teachers.
They wanted you, Marita. That's what they wanted.
First in the country to do that. And then ever since then, I'd say up until right before COVID, they had anywhere from 10 to 12 educators from the United States. They also had educators from Germany because there was an agreement with the German space agency known as DLR to allow their scientists would also fly in SOFIA, and they would have their educators fly in SOFIA.
Wow.
So I want to say at least 100. I'd have to go back and check their website to see how many total people. But yeah, we were so they called us the Cycle Zero teachers.
That sounds pretty badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was also part of Cycle 12. And then the other ones were, I mean, it's convenient that I live in California and Sophia is based in California. So myself and Kathleen Fredette, who is down in Southern California, she's another amazing middle school science teacher who we got to fly on a couple of missions for NASA to sort of, publicize. Look at all the great things we're doing science-wise and for education. So
yeah.
So what is the process like if a teacher were to like sign up to do?
Well, there are other missions, but Congress did not approve Sophia to continue. So Sophia has been retired. However, there is some earth science missions where they are still doing some programs where teachers can fly or participate. So it was an application process. And for all you educators out there that are interested in doing something, you should just still apply to any of these programs that you see, because oftentimes they want to know why you're interested. So you had to explain, well, why are you wanting to be part of this program? How would you share the outcomes of this program with your students, and how do you think that's going to impact? Because their goal is to say, look at how many students are impacted by our work. Congress, you need to approve this because it's not just affecting the scientists, it's affecting our next generation of scientists. And that's what all those programs are about, where they want to include educators in these programs, is because they want educators to know all the opportunities that are available for the next generation of scientists.
Yeah, that's always the funny thing about being in education, that there's programs people have come up with really great things, but getting us to actually know about it, because our heads are down and we're looking at the kids and everything, and to actually pull us to go like, there's these great programs, and have someone walk you through that whole application, or go like, you need 2 hours alone to fill out this form, and no one interrupt you and ask you questions. That's most of my day, or your day too, I'm sure, of like interruptions and getting questions asked, right? To fill out these forms, because I think us doing things to inspire our students, right? That's how we all connect, is to see somebody in action, that this isn't an astronaut or somebody in a book or a billionaire that is just throwing some money at a project. This is a real... Yeah.
I say that's probably the only thing I really brag about to my students, because that gets their attention, right? I call it my street cred.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I personally, I didn't go straight into teaching. I feel like the value I bring to my classroom is that I went and did my work in physics, in research, before I became a teacher. So I think that's what I bring of value. And that even after I became a teacher, I was still participating in research efforts. And so when kids say, oh, wow, Miss Beard, you were with NASA, you went to space, I'm like, well, no, I didn't exactly go to space, but yes, I was part of a NASA mission, which is one of my goals. And then I say, you could do that too. You could be a part of that. And so,
or you can be a part of it and you have a valuable input. Because look you're coming back to the community to talk about it. You're going like, I'm a female, I'm here. Like there's nothing holding you back. Let's usher you into this.
Right.
So that's like you said, those are your goals and you've been living them.
Yeah. So I have there's a part in my classroom that has a little local newspaper, and they're like, wow, that's you. I'm like, me 10 years ago, but yeah, that's me and stuff. So yeah, I hope that I'm inspiring,
So what
students.
do your kids think about it? Do they just think like, oh, whatever, it's just mom and her NASA stuff? Or
when I was, their dad also works at NASA. So, I like to joke and say we're a nerd family. I don't know what they think about it. I think they think it's cool. When they were younger, they thought it was cool. And then of course at the, parochial school that my kids went to when they were K through 8. Apparently as soon as that was, everyone found out that I was part of this NASA mission, and there was a lot of publicity on the local news. Like all the popular moms want to be my friend, and my kids were like, ooh, why does everyone want to be your friend? I'm like,
I'm an astronaut, kind of, not really,
because no, I think they think it's pretty cool. I have one child.
Pretty cool. It's very cool. Yeah.
I have one child who's definitely going to be a STEM person, and another child who is already in college and was like, no, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
But they have, they have their own talents, and I'm so proud of my kids. So they don't have to be a STEM person for me to be proud of them. Even my students. I just want them to enjoy learning.
And be exposed to all those different avenues of
know that there's options, and also, like not just a woman, but a minority woman. I'm originally from Guam, so half a day to all you Chamorro listeners out there. But there's not a lot of us, and we have a club on campus, Asian Pacific Islander Student Alliance. And so I'm hoping that they see that, oh, wow, there's someone that's like me, that looks like me, that has, cultural background like me, that can do those things. Because, not only was I one of 4 women at my department, I was the only person from Guam in my department.
Oh, yeah. And then as important as you didn't get to see someone look like you, act like you, and have your background in there, all our images of people who are scientists in all our books are...
And when I first started, Marita was like, hey, you're Filipino. Yeah. My island friend. I was like, oh, nice.
Yes. We have to,
We have to stick together.
Yes, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And celebrate that. And it's so nice. And the other thing with you in the science and STEM is that you're living it, you're geeking out on it, you're enjoying it. That's the thing. Like Marita really loves this and enjoys it very, very much. And it's just not like another box to check off. Right. Like I'm doing this lesson now. Like when she's doing certain specific lessons, she's all in it and very excited, like you were saying, when you walk by and everything. So that enthusiasm helps other people. I think, oh, I can do this. If she loves it, I could probably love this too. You don't have to hold back nerding out.
Yeah, well, it's funny taking it back to the staff party last week. Like everyone, we were playing bocce ball, by the way, and so everyone's okay. Marita, explain and of course I can't turn that part off. I'm sure I'd love to explain the physics of how we're going to play bocce ball and what your strategy is.
Did it work?
I didn't do so well. I won one game, but I
won against our principal.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to say that I know that you're a good teacher because I thought coming into this interview, I'm like, I'm not going to know anything about this. I'm going to probably think it's boring, but I'm going to act like it's not. But I actually love it. Yay. Like I learned so much and I want to keep going. So that's how, someone is a great teacher and really loves their job and loves space. But bottom line is we'll probably never get to meet Alf or E.T.
Right.
No, but I'm fine with that. I want to know like what other experiments can we tell NASA what to look for? Sorry, I'm hitting the table. Yeah. Can we tell NASA what we want to look for? Or is it who comes up with the, what information you want to extract from all your instruments and stuff?
So if you want to be part of what drives it, then you need to go be a scientist.
Okay.
So, and then, take advantage of, I'm talking to the young people out there, listeners. But yeah, you should go out there and if you're interested in doing it, pursue it. And then apply for internships. NASA has a summer internship program at all of its facilities nationwide. And so you could do that. That's how you can be a part of what they research, but they don't actually query the general public. It's not like a survey. They say, what do we want to learn? But the individual scientists, you find if you're a college student and you have an area that you're interested in researching, find the professor on campus that's doing that, or find the nearby facility that's also doing that research, and then just find a way to get in. Get an internship. Just cold call them, reach out to them.
And then how do you feel your college years prepared you for getting this job? Do you think? Because now in education, I go, there's never a course to prepare you working with students and parents. It was all other things, pedagogy and going over that. But what from SLO prepared you to go to NASA, you think, or who inspired you at SLO to go that?
Who inspired me was my grandmother.
Okay.
So my grandmother passed away in 2003, but she grew up in the time during the Great Depression, during the war. And I would hear the same stories over and over again. But what stuck with me was my grandmother would say, when I was in 6th grade, that it was during the Great Depression, they asked anyone, well, who would like to take a break from school? And she tells me how she cried because she didn't want to leave school, but she didn't get more than a 6th grade education because she had to go work in the local grocery store on the island to help earn money for the family to eat.
Yeah.
And so I remember my grandmother saying in her Chamorro accent that I was very good at spelling and math, and I cried because I didn't want to leave school, but I had to help my family. So my grandmother's who inspires me to do those kinds of things.
What a great woman to reflect on her past and go like, I want more for my granddaughter, and to nudge you gently, I'm assuming.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming up on time.
Oh,
I know. We should do it.
Can listen to Marita forever.
Yes. Oh, no, I actually can. We need to do another. Oh yeah. women in physics. I was saying we could bring on Lynette, you guys can nerd out for like, we'll have a longer time. We'll make it an hour.
Our whole science department of nerding out.
But thank you, Marita, for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
It's so interesting, and it's just so great to have somebody here that can inspire women, minority women, girls, just kind of, reach out for their dreams. And if you want to go and be an astronaut, go be a freaking astronaut.
Yes,
right?
do it.
If you want to go look for Alf or ET, go out there and do it. So, I love that. So, I mean, back when I was in high school, that just was never a thing.
And I just want to say, it's okay if you're not good at that stuff right now. I feel like a lot of kids sort of pigeonhole themselves, whether it's they did it themselves or their school records have pigeonholed themselves. Everyone has the ability to learn. So even if you're not good at math and science now, but it's something that you're interested in, keep working at it. And if you really want that dream, you'll get that dream.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you, Marita.
Thank you.
Yay.